Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Wednesday meditation gathering. It's wonderful to have you here together to share this time. This week we have Anne-Marie Marchant, who will lead us in meditation, and then we'll have 20 minutes of silence. After that, we're going to open it up for sharing, and we have at 10:45. Over to you, Anne-Marie.
Thanks, Dan. Good morning, everyone. Lovely to see you all. And thank you so much to Dan and Teresa and James and everyone involved who makes this happen every week. So I don't come on every week, but I feel very honored to be here today. And before I came on, I had to really sit with Holy Spirit and just check in, because I still get some nerves when I do this kind of thing. And I had to just remind myself, what is this for? And I think we all need to keep reminding ourselves of that. Why do you turn up? Why do you read the book? Why do you do the lessons? Because I know for myself, I can get into some ritual sometimes. And I know the Course reminds us that nothing is meant to be a ritual. And ultimately, eventually we're going to forget the Course and we're going to come to God with holy, empty hands. And that always really brings me back to remember, why am I doing this? And of course, it's to remember who I am, a holy child of God, to have peace. And that's very important. When I really set that goal a few years ago, where my only goal was the peace of God, my goodness, it made such a difference. And the ripple of that has gone out into my life in so many areas. So I think it's really good to just remind ourselves, of that. Why do you turn up? Why do you do the Course? And I think also sometimes a rededication to our commitment to waking up to the truth. And this is what this is for when we join in this way. So, yeah, it would just be really lovely before I share what I'm going to share, just to have a moment where we just invite Holy Spirit and we join in that one mind of truth with Holy Spirit together. And to invite our beautiful brother Jesus to be here, to hold our hands, to comfort us, to remind us, of the love that we are. And to open our beautiful heart to that love. And however you're feeling today, just trust. Just open your heart to trust, to remember why you're here. And to know that we don't have to go to him, he comes to us. And that is restful. So there's no achieving. There's no trying to get anything or even go anywhere. So we can give up the doer. Thank you. So the topic I wanted to go into our meditation today is around the five senses. And I don't know about you guys, but the five senses I thought were quite important in my life. Being able to see and to hear and to touch and to smell and to taste. And let's face it, I think most of us have been brought up to embrace them. So when I started to get the deeper teachings of the Course, that the ego uses the five senses because, of course, it's the body. And we are reminded again and again that we are not a body. But I think this kind of releasing the five senses, and actually the addiction that we have, I think we all have an addiction to the senses. And that's not a judgment. That's just helpful to see how the ego uses the senses. And so we have to ask Holy Spirit to retranslate and to repurpose our senses and to actually give them over to Holy Spirit. So we can start to see through Jesus's eyes, through love, and to hear the guidance from the Holy Spirit. And so part of this meditation that we'll go into is to start to actually allow our senses to come within And so we can open up to true hearing and true seeing. And I was guided to read a little bit from lesson 151, which helps us to understand this. You do not seem to doubt the world you see. You do not really question what is shown you through the body's eyes. Nor do you ask why you believe it, even though you learned a long while since your senses do deceive. That you believe them to the last detail which they report is even stranger. When you pause to recollect how frequently they have been faulty witnesses indeed. And Jesus has put an exclamation mark there. Why would you trust them so implicitly? Why? But because of underlying doubt, which you would hide with show of certainty. How can you judge? Your judgment rests upon the witness that your senses offer you. Yet witness never falser was than this. But how else do you judge the world you see? I love this bit. You place pathetic faith in what your eyes and ears report. That's quite clear from Jesus. I'm going to say that again. You place pathetic faith in what your eyes and ears report. You think your fingers touch reality and close upon the truth. This is awareness that you understand and think more real than what is witnessed to by the eternal voice for God himself. Give him your thoughts, and he will give them back as miracles, which joyously proclaim the wholeness and the happiness God wills his Son as proof of his eternal love. And as each thought is thus transformed, it takes on healing power from the mind, which saw the truth in it and failed to be deceived by what was falsely added. Yeah, so I guess the question is, how do we start to come away from these five senses to really give our vision and our hearing to Holy Spirit? So of course we have to be willing to start with, and to be still, to be able to start to tune in and hear the voice for God, for truth, which is the Holy Spirit. And start to also look at our brothers through those eyes. And of course, involved in the ego's vision is judgment. We all do it. We see a body, and immediately through the ego's eyes, we see the different form, the different shape, different country, and we make a judgment. But of course, if we choose to come back to Holy Spirit, you show me in your vision who's in front of me. So what would it be like to have a day where you chose to do that? Everywhere you went, the supermarket, the garage, met a friend, where you can soften your vision and allow Spirit to look through you. And how could you sense lack if you didn't believe you were a body with these senses? And how could you feel ill if you weren't believing in the senses of the body? How could you believe in age unless you think you're a body with senses? And so it goes on. How could you have anxiety or loss or blame if you weren't using the ego's body senses? So we can take this into our meditation now. So I'd invite you to close the body's eyes and just take a couple of beautiful deep breaths to allow yourself to soften and relax into this precious moment, this holy instant together. Just give yourself full permission to relax and to be here. And then just allow your vision to come within, almost like your eyeballs can just sink back into your skull and rest. They don't have to do anything right now. And the same with your hearing. Just imagine bringing the hearing within your mind, where you join with Holy Spirit, to be willing to open up to hearing, feeling, sensing the voice and the love of Holy Spirit within you, which is here now. So as we go into our 20 minutes of silence, just use this time to watch your mind, how the ego wants to distract and use your senses. And just keep praying and asking for Holy Spirit to repurpose every thought around your senses and belief in a body. And I'll call you back at the end of the meditation. Enjoy. a moment it will be time to come back from the meditation, but before you open your eyes, keeping your vision and your senses still within, just committing, praying for help to give every interaction or phone call, email over to the Holy Spirit today. And so that you can be present and trust the guidance from Holy Spirit, the inner voice. And even as simple as making a telephone call, ask yourself, what is it for? And Jesus even reminds us in lesson 25, you do understand that a telephone is for the purpose of talking to someone who is not physically in your immediate vicinity. What you do not understand is what you want to reach him for. And it is this that makes your contact with him meaningful or not. So really what Jesus is helping us to remember is to put the purpose up front for healing, forgiveness, and joining with a brother to see only the truth. And just allow your day to unfold in that way. You've been going out to a cafe or to the shops. Could it be used to bless each person you see? Okay, so when you feel ready, just very gently opening your eyes back into the room.
We have 17 minutes left for sharing your reflections and your questions. If you'd like to speak, raise your hand or use the reaction button at the bottom of the screen, and I'll invite you to take yourself off of mute. If you'd like to ask Anne-Marie a question or comment with confidentiality, put your message in the chat function at the bottom of the screen, and I'll read it out. Who'd like to share? Teresa.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. That was really lovely. And I was so happy to be reminded about the senses, because it's just a good thing to remember. And I often think about food, even if I've had a big lunch or a big dinner, I'm completely satisfied, and yet I'm thinking, oh, wouldn't it be nice to have some cake? Or, I want more. And I think, who is it that wants more? I'm, who is it that's not satisfied? So that's very good. But I was actually going into a very peaceful state. It was, you finished off by saying enjoy. I thought, I'm enjoying this. This is wonderful. And then a damn fly came in the room and started tickling me on my nose, tickling my head. I thought, I don't think I can see this fly with love.
Wow. Well, that's interesting, isn't it? Because there's the senses
Yes.
tickling you, right? And so the ego is immediately gone into a judgment.
Yes.
Yeah. What an incredible opportunity to just watch the mind, because it's even in that, can I find peace?
Yes.
And not have a judgment that this shouldn't be happening.
Yes.
And isn't it amazing how Holy Spirit used a fly for the senses? I love it. I love how it works. It's wonderful.
So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I had an experience like that recently when I was in a bit of a process and my eyes were closed and I heard a blackbird singing, and then I heard the fridge rattling. And now the ego would say the blackbird is a nice sound and the fridge isn't, but spirit said actually it's still your perception. There are no good or bad sounds. And again, it's only the ego that wants to believe there's good or bad anything to disturb your peace. And so even that, you know, to watch the mind that believing those thoughts, basically. And then as I saw that happening, of course, what happened? Both the birds and the fridge stopped. There was just peace. And I thought, oh my God. And again, there was no right or wrong with the bird or the fridge in that moment, but just my thought. And so I just love how spirit will use absolutely everything. It doesn't have to be this profound epiphany, you know. It was a blackbird in a fridge, and for you it was a fly. Yeah, it can all be used, everything.
I think I'll jump in here. Thank you, Anne-Marie. This has been beautiful. And where did the reading come from that you did in the beginning?
That was from lesson 151.
Or
Yeah.
I had an experience last night which just resonates with what you shared. I was woken up at 5 a.m. and we live in a block of flats, and I heard somebody hammering at 5 a.m. in the morning, and my judgments all shot up. You know, like how inconsiderate. What's wrong with this guy? You know, and so then I remembered just give it to Holy Spirit for healing, and I gave it to Holy Spirit. And said, heal my fear-based thoughts, please. Heal my judgments, and then I felt peaceful, and the sound stopped, and I went back to sleep. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thanks, Dan. That's a perfect example, isn't it?
Yeah.
Of to choose again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Who'd like to share? Norman.
Yes, thank you very much, Anne-Marie. I sometimes feel as if I am the happiest man in the world. I should be the happiest man in the world, but possibly never having experienced sensual happiness and joy, I'm unaware of spiritual happiness and joy. But as I say, everything I know that I could do nothing of myself. Everything is done for me if I let it, and I know how to do that now. But as I say, sometimes I feel strange that Jesus speaks to me through the Course. If I'm reading the Course, it's Jesus speaking, and the Holy Spirit. During that meditation, I felt like coughing, and the thought came into my head: I'm not a body. I don't have to respond to that urge to cough. I am a spirit, and I am free. And that urge to cough went away, and as it always does if I do that. But whenever you say at the end, if you see the love in other people, you might not be able to explain to them how I got where I am now, but I know that it's hard to put into words. If I leave it alone, it'll be okay. But I think that's where the happiness and joy will come from, is just leaving it alone and experiencing the love that's in them, really. It's a funny sort of a situation. I don't know if I explained it terribly well. But
beautiful. Wow, Norman, I think you described it really well. And what came into my mind was, you know, you're being the demonstration. And that's all Jesus was. He was the demonstration, wasn't he? And I think the more we go, well, for me, more it's the practicalities of the course as opposed to learning the course. There's nothing to learn, it's everything to undo. And you then become the demonstration. So that's what it sounds like, you know, you're doing. And what greater gift is there than that? Your happiness, you know, when you have that is what you're sharing. And sometimes we don't need words for that. And even when there's times when we're not feeling happy, that's okay, isn't it? To just accept and watch the thinking. Who's the one that thinks it should be different?
Thank you. I think I know what you mean. It's sort of a nice space, but as I say, I just have to accept that as happiness. You know, the fact that I have no worries or cares or anything, and just that is happiness. And just accept that. Thank you.
Beautiful. Wow. Thank you, Norman. That's wonderful.
Would like to share? Dennis, take yourself off mute.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. When you were talking about the senses, it just reminded me as a child, they used to do a party piece and they had a plank, and we were told to stand on the plank and were blindfolded, and they took us up to the ceiling and we were told to jump. And everybody was terrified and wouldn't jump. And when they took the blindfold off, someone had a book, which was a ceiling, and the plank I was standing on was about 3 inches above the ground. So the senses were completely fooled except for the visual. Now, I think it was the 70s, I went into Expo 2000, and there was a film showing, and you were on a big dipper, and everybody was screaming and shouting because you felt you were on this thing. And all of a sudden I looked down and there was no vibration and I was standing on concrete. But to see this film, it was like you were actually there and experiencing it.
Yeah.
So the senses have been completely fooled.
Yeah. And of course that then can take us two ways, can't it? Into fear, oh my God, what's happening? Or when we choose again, realizing it. And of course, if there's fear, we still have a fear of the body. Something could happen. And the senses, when with the ego, we'll always want to look for danger and fear and catastrophe and judgment of another. And so that's why when we can, it's a great example, isn't it? Because actually in reality, there was nothing happening. And there never is, really. There's the joke. There's the cosmic joke. But that's what we're undoing, isn't it? More and more, this just noticing, what are my eyes or my ears telling me? And is that the ego? Because you know, because you're not at peace. And it becomes easier to come back to notice, it must be the ego if I'm not at peace. And sometimes it is so simple. Like, but like you were saying, Norman, it's like, well, I am happy, I am content. Yeah, it can be that simple. Thank you, Dan. Thank you. I love that memory.
Who would like to share? Sandy.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. Yes, I feel the same as everybody else. It's really good to be reminded about the senses that are the ego's tool. And I was surprised how quickly the ego wanted to come into the meditation straight away, you know, getting in, just breathing. And straight away my nose was tickling, you know, and I just, again, like a few of the others have said, you know, I just suddenly thought, oh, okay, the ego's coming in really quickly to try and distract me and just think, I just thought I'm not a body. And as soon as I did that, then the urge to have a tickly nose and do anything about it. Absolutely disappeared.
Mm.
And throughout the meditation, I just kept finding different ways that the ego was trying to pull me out of meditation, and just not allowing myself to go down that rabbit hole, and realizing that I was the witness, just witnessing that. That was really quite beautiful, to be in that space and just observe how often it tries, and it, you know, give you just moments of peace, and then something will try and pull you back again. And the longer you do it, the bigger the quiet periods are, but it will still try and come back in. But it was really beautiful to observe that. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. I think that's it, isn't it? It's just being willing to be the observer.
Yeah.
And that is such a wonderful practice. You know, the ego even thinks that's too simple. Shouldn't I be doing something more, right? Achieving something. And actually, there's the secret right there, just to be that observer in that moment. Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we've come to the end of our time together. Thank you, Anne-Marie. That was wonderful.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. And take yourself off mute, show your appreciation to Anne-Marie.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Anne-Marie.
Anne-Marie.
Thank you, Anne-Marie.
Thank you, Anne-Marie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Lots of love.